Hi, this is Shirish Kulkarni, founder and CEO of STROTA Consultech, which is driving business consulting into small and medium businesses in India, basically helping them to grow. That's what we have been doing for the last 5 years. In this new initiative called as HATKE, we're looking at talking to personalities, leaderships, and individuals across the globe to find out areas in which they think in this context of pandemic, is the situation really challenging, difficult, or so-called, troublesome, or there is a blackout in the future. So we have a great, we have been fortunate to get Vivek Vaidya, who is a global leader. He is part of Frost and Sullivan. Is a global organization in consulting space. He is associate partner in there, leading the business into personal mobility. Vivek, great to have you on this platform, and maybe you can talk about what is this personal mobility all about and how it is challenged or not.
Sure. So thanks, Shirish, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I like the concept, and that's main reason why I'm here. So basically, after COVID-19 hit, it started, I work in Singapore. And so we started seeing this impact way earlier than the rest of the world. And we started seeing the impact right by end of February. And as we were doing this, we realized that it's not something that you can contain very easily. I personally lead the practice which we call as mobility, and this particular practice of mine is the worst hit practice, because what happened when actually COVID-19 came in? What happened? The first thing that stopped was, people said, countries said that no flights from China. No flights from China. What happens to Cathay Pacific? What happens to China Eastern? Then, you started getting cases in Singapore, Italy, and then slowly what happened was all countries started closing down. And as a result, you would not believe me if I say this, 90% of the auto airlines industries, their fleets are grounded. Their fleets are on, so if the fleet is grounded, that means it's not making money. I just read somewhere that Singapore Airlines, the biggest airlines in this part of the world, has flown all their fleet from Singapore to Australia to park it in a more neutral and less corrosive atmosphere, less humid atmosphere, because now we don't know how long the fleet is going to be on ground. So when you have to get it off ground, you have to clean. That's a bigger expense. Automotive industry, it is likely to see a decline of about 20 to 30%, and this is more steep than the global financial crisis that we had seen in 2008. So the situation is absolutely not good. The situation is very, very difficult. Most of the vehicle manufacturers are in cash saving mode. They are questioning every single expense, including toilet paper, including a pin and a pen is being questioned. Okay. And that's the way in which the industry is functioning. So the situation is quite difficult, quite grave.
All right. So in this scenario also, I see that there will be some degree of innovations, and as we call it as HATKE, differentiated ways of looking at the situation and coming out of it. Do you see that industries in auto and aero looking at different types of ways of models of working to help the situation right now?
Yes. So essentially what's happening is so for example, all countries realize that they're falling short of ventilators. They are likely to fall short of ventilators. And nobody had envisioned that something like this can happen, and they will require so many ventilators. Now, how do they ramp up the ventilators in such short span of time? And automotive industry came to rescue. You know that in India, Mahindra and Mahindra developed a respirator. In US, GM actually repositioned and reconditioned some of their plants to produce respirators. I think great innovations, and we don't foresee that they will keep doing that. But to tide over the crisis, to ramp up the capacity, they have done it in Singapore. They realized that most of the staff is grounded. Most of the air stewards and stewardess are grounded. So the Singapore government has actually deployed them to educate people about social distancing. They have repurposed the entire manpower of Singapore Airlines to do something else. So that's, I would say, a very strong innovation.
Right. So I think redeploying of the knowledge, redeploying of the same manpower in the different functions to reskill them, to look at the way that they could be utilized for betterment in the current situation and also eventually after the pandemic. So do you see kind of a sunset or flattening of the curve anywhere for the pandemic in your point of view?
I think China. If I have to name two countries, China and South Korea are definitely two countries who have, at least at this point in time, have gotten over the crisis, and they are basically coming back to the normal functioning, as you may call it. So these two countries are definitely first off the mark. Singapore would have been there, but unfortunately in Singapore, the virus actually entered the most vulnerable part of the society here, which is the migrant workers. They stay in dormitories. So current number of cases that we see in Singapore are largely coming from migrant laborers, which definitely is a challenge. But I think South Korea has shown us the way. They have done taken a completely different way to overcome the crisis. They did extensive testing, they did clampdowns, and now they're quite out of it. Of course, they are trying to protect themselves from incoming wave of COVID-19. So that is definitely something that they would need to manage. But as of now, these two countries seem to be doing pretty well.
Right. And in case of aviation also, I believe there'll be a thought process of, there'll be a huge amount of loss, right, for this industry as we see it. So how are they looking at the revival or, comeback from that situation?
So I think first and foremost, the demand has to pick up. Without that, it is very hard for any airlines industry or anything to come out of this and do something. Now, what we see, and although we don't have on-ground evidence, but say when the mishap of 9/11 happened, that actually changed the entire airlines industry. Before 9/11, I remember my friends used to see off people right up to the aeroplane gate. They could go on the aero bridge also. But after 9/11, the entire airport security all over the world changed. Now you cannot even enter some of these airports. And the entire processes changed, the machinery, equipment that is used, that underwent a huge change. So we see this kind of a step change in any public transportation, any shared or public transportation has to undergo this kind of a transformation. So it's not just airlines, it's also public transportation, it's also the public taxis, it's also the Grab, Olas, Ubers. All of them have to think that, because this kind of a risk of contamination was earlier never envisioned, because nobody had thought about this kind of a risk. And now that this risk is so real and it has stopped the entire world. So definitely this is something which the industry has to think through. They have to come up with solutions to mitigate this kind of a risk.
Right, a different perspective actually. In our mythological thinking, whenever there is so many things bad happening, and I'm telling because you are, about Indian, you are an Indian, so I'm just bringing it up. There is a pralay, to wash out everything bad. So do you, in your view, is it a pralay where it is cleansing everything that human has created? Is that something that is your perspective?
So I would like to take it on two aspects. I would say there is a business angle to it and there is a personal angle to it. Business angle to it, definitely it's a pralay, and I really want to see what good things are going to come out of it. Because the business challenges are real. Salaries are being cut, people are being let go, companies are closing down, people are losing their livelihood, supply chains are breaking. If this lockdown situation continues for a long time, so imagine what happens. I work in automotive industry. There are tens of thousands of components that come together. Now imagine that there are thousands of suppliers which send parts just in time for the car to be rolled out of the assembly line in 6 minutes or 7 minutes, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, right? So this is the entire supply chain which is at work to make sure that this car rolls out at this particular time. Now just imagine one of these suppliers who's supplying, who's instrumental in making this supply, goes belly up, or who actually loses, who can't sustain. Then you have a real challenge where your supply chain is going to break. And there would be many companies who would struggle to come out of it. So maybe I'm giving an example of big conglomerates, and they will have sufficient wherewithal, sufficient investments to revive this industry. But look at, let's say you have a neighborhood restaurant and he loses his food supplier. What does he do? Where does he go? So I would say from the business point of view, even philosophically speaking, I really want to see what good comes out of it. And I'm really, really keen to see all of this. On personal point of view, however, because you are saving time on travel, you're not traveling anymore. My job used to involve traveling to different countries. I would travel almost 2 weeks or 3 weeks a month. So, there was a lot of backlog on my personal front, on my family front. So now, for the last couple of months, there is some kind of a stability and more kind of predictability to my routine. So on personal front, you can try to find your happiness or try to do things differently, which, you can say that, okay, after pralaya, something good is happening. On business front, I think it's difficult. On personal front, there are a lot of good things. And I would consider you, me, myself, people like you and me, very lucky that we are able to think and act like this. There are some people out there who are really in a difficult situation.
Right. So you might be talking to the leadership of aero or auto industry. Are they kind of shattered, or are they kind of composed, or they are building their plans up, or how are they thinking?
So the companies that we talk to are quite big, and so even if it's a system that works to run these companies. We are not essentially dealing with small and medium enterprises. We are dealing with the value chain, and at top of the value chain, you have a Toyota and a Honda and a Nissan, which are big companies, and they have a big team to manage things. So we don't really see a panic as such, but we do see a lot of caution. We do see a lot of holding back the decisions, or wait and watch kind of attitude
for any commitment or any kind of investments to be done.
Right. Yeah. So as I said, a single pin and a pen is also being questioned, because these are large companies. They need to conserve cash. The cash needs to be deployed in a certain way. So I won't say it's a panic. I would say it's a caution, and that is how it should be. I think this is the time to be cautious. Yeah. So this is what it is.
What message I get it from the larger companies to small and medium companies is, anyway, there is a limited cash that you have. You have to make sure that you ensure that you give salaries, you give all the expenses, take care of them. Don't increase anything which is a liability. Anyway, I have to manage the cash flow in the form of debtors and creditors. For global, it will be large size, where in fact maybe government has to intervene for any bailout has to be done. But here for small and medium businesses, again, it could be a small number of employees or small type of a product involving small amount involved. But I think the thought process is the same. You have to maintain the.
Also, one more thing I must highlight here is, there is a clear effort to maintain the teams, and this is not a time where even in US, where we see that there is wholesale firing or closing down something. So the idea is, so there are two ways in which you can cut the cost, right? You can let, if you have a team size of 100, you want to cut the cost by 10%, you can let 10 people go and retain 90% of the people. The other way to do it is you retain 100 people and reduce their salary by 10%. So most of the companies that I've seen are trying to maintain status quo, even if it involves paying less money, even if it involves deferring bonuses, even if it involves saying no increment, but maintain the job, maintain the ecosystem, make sure that everybody weathers the storm and comes out of it on the other side.
Good, good. Translating a little bit on your individual, I would say, characteristic, or you being always positive about the situation. What keeps you motivated as an individual? Any kind of a hobby or things that you look around in Singapore?
Yes. Yeah. So, yes, I think I would say I'm leading a dual life.
Okay.
And although the job that I do is, although the business has slowed down, but the number of meetings have gone up because a lot of executives who were otherwise not available are available.
Mm-hmm.
People are willing to listen. There are lots of webinars happening, lots of meetings happening, although they're online. Everything is I'm busy from right 9 o'clock to 6:37. And that's when this is how I look, from 9:30 to 6. And at 6 o'clock, what I do is, I'm sitting at the same place in my study room. And at 6 o'clock, I remove my jacket. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there starts my dual life. So my dual life, in my dual life, what I do is, I don't know whether your viewers can see my t-shirt. So this is a t-shirt which we got it done. So in Singapore, about 2 years back, I started a very small interest group of trekking. Singapore is a very flat country, and there are not many hills, not many mountains, but there are a lot of people who actually want to go mountaineering, trekking, etc. And they have no way to practice. They have no way to know how to prepare. So if you are living in Pune and you want to do a trek in Himalayas, so what you tell everyone is, okay, never mind. What you do is every day go to Parvati, every weekend go to Simagad, and then you're done. That's the standard operating procedure. You don't need anything else to do. Right? But here, you don't have any such thing. The tallest hill is 160 meters. So virtually it's a very flat line. So I went for treks and I found it difficult to prepare myself. So I thought there may be some more people who would also face the same situation. So I started an interest group about 2 years back, and it grew. I just put something on Facebook, and I have now 1,200 members in this group. I started doing a weekly trek. There is a lot of unexplored places in Singapore, a lot of places where nice greenery and jungle are maintained. You can see snakes and you can see a lot of wildlife even in Singapore. So we started doing that, and everybody was happy. And then that's when the clamp down actually happened. So that's when I realized that maybe whatever group I have made, and it was a very voluntary group, and this group may suffer. We don't know when the lockdown ends, and my group won't survive on the other end. So what I did was I said that, okay, let's do this. I converted this trekking group, who used to earlier walk and climb whatever little hills we have, into an exercise group. So I said that the government is asking us to stay home. Government is not allowing us to step out. So, but still you need to burn calories. Still you need to keep fit. Most of the friends that I have are now busy cooking and busy putting those Dolgana coffee and showing their culinary skills, and somebody is eating them and somebody has to burn the calories. So what I did was I transformed this whole group into exercise group. And I found some enthusiastic people who are willing to take exercises, but exercises that are fun. So I started this as an experiment. It worked. Now we have on Zoom, we conduct 4 classes a week.
Wow.
And we have anywhere between 10 to 25 people who join for every session. So if I would say in a week, about anywhere between 50 to 100 individuals join. And we have a 1 hour of session. We play music on their laptops. music plays on everybody's phone.
Oh,
We have instructors who give instructions on Zoom. We know which angle to use, what to do, what exercises to do. We have worked out everything. And whoever works and whoever does this is so happy. And, we started doing this. 15 days later, my son got curious. He's about 12 years old. And he peeked and said, "What are you doing?" So he said, I asked it, "Why don't you join me?" And he joined me, and he thought it's fun. And now, apart from the 4 sessions that we do with my group, I do another 5 sessions with my son, because now he's got into this habit of exercising. So I would say lockdown has worked for me from that point of view, because if I had to inculcate a habit of exercising in my son, I wouldn't know how to start and how to end. But with this lockdown and with this some level of coincidences, it has worked. Now my son, whenever it's 6 o'clock in the evening, he says, "Stop work and let's exercise."
it's pretty innovative, and the way you look at it, it's a blessing in the disguise, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And then there is another hobby that it was buried deep inside. I like to sing, although I can't sing properly, but I like to do it. So what I did was, my school group, who's also, we had a lot of enthusiastic singers, and again, they are spread from US to India to, I'm in Singapore, some guys are in Japan. So everybody's home, everybody has a little bit of free time. So we decided to come together and sing. And so to sing, we said, what can we sing? Yeah, we can sing movie songs, but it's not fun. So we finally zeroed down on Jayosute, Swatantra Veer Savarkar's song, and we all love it. So basically we went to Smule, which is a technology like social singing platform. And we got the track. All of us practiced at home. 8 of us got together. And so 2 of them are in Pune, 1 is in Bangalore, I'm in Singapore. 1 person is in Detroit, another in Dallas and Detroit. So we are spread all across the world, but we wanted to come together and sing. So, we finally did it. And on 1st of May, we launched, we gathered all our classmates together. We invited our parents, we invited our siblings, we invited the school friends, and we just put it on YouTube. Since then, I think I've heard at least from 3-4 groups that they got this song as a forward and they loved it. So I think it's doing pretty well, and I'll be happy to show it to you.
Good. So I think looking at the situation may be constrained, but in a way that you can innovate, exercise to get it from trekking to in the form of doing exercise at home. Even singing is something which is a hidden wish that we have, and you made it to really come real through this lockdown. I think that's pretty positive. Moving forward, do you think that you have any, there are people who are also looking up, right? And you being in one of the leading countries in the world, do you have a kind of message which actually will keep them motivated to look up? Those scenario might be, a little bit tough for right now. So what, do you have something to say to them to keep motivated?
So I would say this is a situation which is under no one's control. And it's best to focus on what is under your control and what is not. So the situation, the COVID-19, the lockdown, all of these is not under your control. Sneaking out and trying to go out and trying to break the rules is not going to help anyone. And it's definitely not going to help you. I think what people miss out is they are risking themselves when they step out there. It's not the pleasure of, venturing out and coming back without getting beaten up by police. That's not the fun. Actually, you are risking yourself when you go out. So whatever is under your control, do your best. The situation is not idle. At the end of the year, if you are alive, your family and friends are alive, and you have maintained your financial position, your job, then you are a winner already. So focus on what is under your control and tell yourself, this too shall pass.
Right. I think HATKE had an element of H for health, A for attitude, which is positive. Health, I think you are doing exercise. T, technology, you're using technology like Zoom and Smule. K for knowledge, I think you're sharing knowledge in the form of being analyst, leading this kind of a function, which is for Aero and Auto for personal mobility. And engaging with people, and thanks.
I think all of this.
all that
we are doing all of this.
Well, so we're wonderful to have you around and spending time with us.
Thanks, Shirish. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. It was a pleasure.
It's wonderful. Our best wishes to you and whatever you are doing right now, as well as best wishes for your personal goals and the initiatives that you are driving. Blessings to your son and
yes. Thanks, Shirish, and same to wish you the same.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
बिजनेस कोई भी हो, सक्सेस की नींव हम रखते हैं।
बुलंदियों को छूने की आपके अरमानों की उम्मीद जगाती जोत है, हर सपनों का हम स्रोत है।
सही स्ट्रेटेजी, परफेक्ट डिसीजन मेकिंग और बिजनेस ग्रोथ के लिए हम आपके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर आपकी स्वप्न पूर्ति करते हैं। स्त्रोत कंसल्टेक, सिनर्जाइजिंग ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन।